The topic that Joy and I are speaking on today is called Peel the Onion, which I think covers every single thing to do with anything to do with codependency. Peel the onion to me is really means a greater and a deeper understanding of the emotional work that I know I have been going through for the last almost 14 years. On Tuesday, I will have 14 years in this program. And the funny thing is that the first meeting I went to at 8 a.m. on October 8th, 2010, was a meeting called Peel the Onion. Go figure. And here I am sharing on this topic. Um, so when I went into this meeting 14 years ago, a friend of mine, a guy I had met on a dating site, go figure, said, "Oh, I go to these meetings." And I'm like, "What are these meetings?" And I was curious because I had always been into some sort of self-help or, something to add value to my life. And so I went into this meeting blindly, not knowing what the heck it was. And it was in this small room, and it was mostly men. Maybe there was about 12 people max. And when I went into the room, I felt a little self-conscious because I thought it was going to be this big room, and it was a teeny room. And I sat down and kind of was trying to hide. There's not a lot of place you can hide around a table. And I lasted the whole meeting, 1 hour, obviously, and it had the Peel the Onion pamphlet right here. I've been through a few of these, and because they get worn out, okay, after 14 years of using this thing a lot. I was like, I heard in my listening that recovery had 12 steps, 12 traditions, 12 promises. It had a welcome and a preamble, and the only requirement for membership, tradition 3, the only requirement for membership is the desire to have healthy, loving relationships. So I went, I'm in. Who doesn't want that? Well, needless to say, and peel the onion, because the whole premise of peeling the onion is the onion represents the pains of our childhood and any trauma, whatever level of trauma. I don't think it matters. We're innocent beings with our feelings and emotions. And recovery to me is healing these layers of emotions that either got shoved down for me, or I like to use the word because they use that in Peel the Onion, kind of hiding out, hiding our authentic self because we don't feel safe. We hadn't felt safe since we were born for whatever reason. Maybe for my case, I had a mother that was not someone who I felt safe with for whatever reason. She was negligent emotionally. I felt that she was raising me to serve her own needs, if you would. And I didn't feel accepted as the human being, the gift of God that I really am. So as I was being raised in this home, there was 4 children within 6 years. And I don't know about you, if you've ever had children or not, having 4 children within 6 years is a lot of work, not only physically, but emotionally. And as in life, for me, whoever I'm around, whether it be at work, recreational, in meetings, whatever relationships I have in my life, which are abundant, I see in them, it's a mirror. So I can see in someone else what's happening within myself. So being this mirror and this sensitive being, a codependent child, I thought my role in life was to take care of others, feelings, emotions, tasks, and to really be there, whatever that meant. So I heard this word in recovery, self-abandonment, and I didn't know what that meant when I got into the rooms. I heard that a lot. I self-abandon. Well, I thought that's what life was about. You're supposed to just do for others and take care of them before yourself, because that's how I was raised. So, growing up, my mother was a stay-at-home mother. And, you watch shows like Leave It to Beaver or Please Don't Eat the Daisies or whatever. And you see these mothers with the apron on, and they're getting up in the morning, making the breakfast, serving the coffee. Bye, honey. Have a great day. That was not my house. Okay. We got up, I got up, and my father got up, and I would tippy toe around the house because I did not want to wake my mother up. We did not want to encounter my mother in the morning. She was a little abrasive, and it was like, run out the door. But 9 times out of 10, she never woke up in the morning. There was no breakfast on the table with a nice tablecloth. We basically poured our own cereal, ate it, and we were out the door. So I didn't think I was at that much of a deficit because that's all I knew. Okay. But as I started getting older, and I had 3 brothers, and we were all kind of wedged together. And my mother was very concerned in how we looked. I don't know if that resonates for any of you guys out there, but it was like, you better look good. You got to dress right. Your hair, even when I got on today, I'm like, oh my God, this Zoom, I'm like, I didn't do my whole hairdo. Anyway, we'll get into that later. I was learning things in life in my home that really didn't embrace or magnify my strengths. It didn't really highlight or accent like my authentic self. In a way, it taught me how to feel like, what's wrong with me? How am I not showing up today? I don't really know a lot. I'm not that smart academically. It was everything I was not. That's not a healthy way to like wake up and think, what am I going to encounter today, instead of just being a kid and living life. But my older brother had a challenge. He was a bully. And from a very young age, he had a problem with addiction. I don't think in his 57 years of life, he passed away 11 years ago. I don't know if he ever knew how to be a sober person. And as I got older and got into recovery 14 years ago, so I had 3 years in recovery with him being an active addict, I kind of started realizing that I didn't hate my brother. I hated the addiction that caused my brother to be a bully, be pushing off on everyone else, his own insecurities. And I realized that growing up, being around this person who was an addict behaviorism, that the person in the home, in my home, that was the sickest, usually mandated or dictated what was going on within the home. So my brother with his dysfunction and my mother with her raging, they really took over the energy of the home. So the people that were quote unquote the normies had to shift who they were being to accommodate the dysfunction. So it's only when I started going to other people's homes that I saw that my home was not exactly normal. And yes, we had dinner on the table every night at the same time. My parents hired someone to help manage the home and the kids because my mother wasn't able to do it all. And that's the woman that was our nurse turned into our caregiver / housekeeper. She basically raised us, thank goodness. I think that there's a lot of strength in who I am as a human being because we were afforded the opportunity to have someone. And I don't know if you guys read or saw the movie, but that's how I was raised. It was a strong Black woman who had a kind heart, who took pride in raising us along with my parents. And she taught me about respecting people, accepting others, about Martin Luther King and the importance of all human beings are treated equally, that there's no one is better than anyone else. And she saw the dysfunction in the home with my older brother and his disease and his addiction and how it was really breaking the home down. You know, he used to steal from my parents. There was just all the times at the dinner table waiting for the phone to ring. Is someone arrested? Is someone in the hospital? Who knows? But living like that is not, quote unquote, the way I watched the Waltons. John Boy, there was nobody calling the Walton family saying, so and John Boy, well, maybe he fell off a horse. But anyway, what I'm trying to communicate is I adapted in my environment. And when I finally found my way into recovery in 2010, I realized that I didn't even know what codependency was. I didn't know that there were all these patterns and characteristics. And I looked at them and I thought, I relate to a few of them. But I realized that being a good codependent, I had that protective layer of denial. That was my survival. Being in denial helped me to cope with my dysfunctional family and also to kind of shelter myself or shield myself, protect myself from the negative energy in my home. So I would go to other people's houses a lot growing up, and I knew deep in my soul who I felt safe with. So I thought I was being very stingy because I didn't feel safe with my mother. So I was being very stingy. I did not show up as my true authentic self. I consider myself kind of funny, fun loving, and I would just be kind of quiet because the people I don't feel safe with, I kind of go woo inward. And the people I feel safe with, I become myself. I open up my heart even wider. And anytime I did that around unsafe people, I got hurt. So how many times do I have to stick my finger in the fire? How many times do I want to stick my finger in the light switch and woo, shock? So I learned that some people intuitively I knew were not safe. But that came from a lot of layers being put on, a lot of painful layers of trauma, of my brother bullying and trying to force himself on me, violating my privacy, emotionally, physically, sexually. He was, he just was a nightmare for me. I used to have to lock my door. He'd try to get in my room and touch me inappropriately. And I didn't know how to communicate that to anyone safe. I felt shame. I felt embarrassed. My brother's trying to touch my breasts, or this is happening. How do I protect myself? Why is this happening? I'm a kid. Why is this happening? So this kind of layering of, just protecting myself went on. And then when my brother got sent to boarding school and my other brother got sent, they all got sent away because my mother could not handle raising children. So I was the only one left at home in high school. I was by myself. And I'm very fortunate. I went to a very good all-girls school, which taught self-esteem. So I was thinking to myself the other day, can you imagine if I didn't have Maddie, I didn't live near my grandmother, who was a driving strong force in my life. If I didn't go to this all-girls school that taught me values and respect, because I did not learn that at home. It was a big fat lie, but I really didn't understand how that it was as bad as it was, number one. And number two, I didn't know how to help myself, because in those days, and I know you guys are familiar, when Oprah Winfrey came into being, she made it okay to talk about uncomfortable topics, like molestation, like abuse, physically, emotional. or what have you. So before Oprah came around, it was not cool to talk about anything. You know, if you had something going on in your house, you just buttoned up, put the vault, no talking. And I know a lot of people are out there going, oh, that was me. So I think, you know, growing up and before getting in recovery and even going into recovery, because I can say 14 years into recovery, I wasn't so like healed within a week or a year. It took years of, as they say, uncovering, looking at my feelings, not being ashamed of admitting who I was and my low self-esteem. I read in the book, it said the pain we feel is greater than the fear of change. So if the pain we feel is greater than this fear of changing, then it's not easy to change because it's scary. So I had to realize that the uncomfortableness, the lack of feeling who I am was normal in Codependence Anonymous, because we're in the rooms until we learn to love ourselves. I didn't know. I was like, I love myself, don't I? Like, don't I love myself? I'm like, well, if I love, you know, no one was really showing me a lot of love growing up. If I was being abused by a brother, there was craziness. My mother was a rager. She never said, I love you. You know, it was like, but I had a really great father. My father's mother was amazing. And so I knew that it could exist. But for some reason in my life, and I don't know if this connects with any of you, I was like desperate for the love and attention of my mother, who didn't know how to give it. And fast forward, you know, I don't even want to talk about my entire like life history because it might get boring for you, because I know my brother ended up overdosing 3 years ago at the age of 57. And when he passed, he was in my parents' home. And for some reason, I did not go to work that day. I had not been well 2 days previous, but I thought I'm going to take one day off, like self-care day. And that's the day my parents called and said, the bathroom door is locked. Your father can't get in it. Your brother, blah, blah, blah. And then my dad somehow got the door open and called 911, but he was already passed. My dad was 85 at the time. And my brother just could not get sober. He was a good person. He wasn't a bad person. His behavior was not acceptable growing up, but guess what my house had? No boundaries. No boundaries, no boundaries, no boundaries. And even though we had a strict schedule and we were raised impeccably in that way, that really doesn't build character and a really healthy person just because you have a good schedule. That's not a boundary. I had to learn what's the difference in a boundary and a really good schedule. A boundary is learning how to say no. Well, it took me like 10 years in recovery, at least, to be able to say no and not feel guilty or like horrible about it. Do you want to do this? No. I would never say no. I remember I had a best friend and I asked her once, do you want to blah, blah, blah? No, I'm not interested. No. How do you say that so easily? So when my brother passed away 3 years ago, at the same time, my son, who was 21 at the time, or 20, he was living on the streets as a heroin addict. So I was dealing with two addicts, my brother and my son. And thank God for CoDA, because when I got in the rooms in 2010, I had a lot of help from my fellowship. How did I have help? People taught me how to be a mom to an addict, because I wasn't doing very good being a sister to an addict. And I learned through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of hard work, a lot of digging deep, because my son's life in my mind and my heart and soul was was on the line. So I didn't have time to like waste in recovery. I wasn't just, oh, I want to feel better. I wanted my son to live. And I saw in 2013 on February, whatever the date, 2nd, my brother left this world. And I knew I do not want to be 85 years old and have to bury my son. So I just worked harder. I just created more boundaries. I said, no, I will not feed you. I will not give you money. I will not put a roof over your head. If you want help, I will be the first one, because I had already been driving up and down the street in the desert looking for my son at bus stops. I'd go to the mall. I'd see him. I did not want to live like that. I'd pull over at a bus stop and see him with some druggy friends, and I'd say, get the you know what in this car, and I'd like F-bomb all his friends like it was their fault. And you know, what was I doing? Nothing. I was just driving myself crazy. And I tell this story. I said this serenity prayer so many times. I thought my head was going to like explode, because at night when it's quiet, what do you think codependents do all night? And people that self-talk. And if the phone rang and my son got arrested, I would breathe differently because he was alive. So I knew this program would give me the tools. I had no certainty if my son would live or die. I did know one thing, that if I went to meetings and I did the step work and I healed from my own family of origin dysfunction, that just maybe I'd find some peace. I couldn't bring my brother back, but I thought, you know what? I'm at peace now because my brother's in a better place. My parents don't have to die and worry about their son. So push come to shove, it was a miracle. I don't know if it was all the praying or if it was a collective energy from all you guys out in the world of recovery. But I went to so many AA meetings that people thought I was in AA. I mean, I didn't go for like 6 months once, and I came back to this one meeting and someone goes, oh, we're so glad you found the rooms again. Are you okay? What was your relapse like? And I said, sorry, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm a codependent. And I came to these meetings to learn how to be a mom to an addict. And they were like, oh, you're a normie. And I'm thinking, I am not a normie. There's nothing normal about being codependent. But I knew in my heart and soul, because of Ken and Mary, underneath all addiction is what? Codependency. We know that. I didn't know that when I got in the rooms. And a lot of people in other rooms don't know that. But the people that are gifted, that found their way into the rooms at CoDA, know that there's a way deeper healing other than stopping to do whatever they're addicted to. So I just kept putting it out there to my son. I'm here for you. This is 2013. I was trying to tell him through Facebook Messenger that his uncle died, and no answer. You know, I couldn't get a hold of him. For some reason, I think he got arrested again for like having some paraphernalia, whatever it was. And I said to him, you've been sober for how long? You've been in jail. Let's get you in a recovery. And I called a place and they said, well, you're going to have to pay us $10,000. You know, it's some deal with the insurance. Anyway, it didn't matter. He went off on the streets and started using. But when he did surrender, and he did surrender in May 7th, 2013, 3 months after my brother left this world, my son said, I'm ready. He had seen too many of his friends get arrested or die. And for some reason, he hit the end of his ropes, even to this day. And I will tell you, he's 11 years sober. I used to have dreams, awake dreams, that said, I want my son to be sober. I want my son to be in AA, not NA. Does it really matter if he's sober? But for some reason, I was like, I want him in AA. I want him to be sober. I want him to be instrumental to help young men in recovery. I want him to be a good citizen of this world and give back. So I will fast forward. My son is 11 years sober. He's in AA. He is very instrumental helping young people. He sponsors a lot of people. He is living his dream of playing ice hockey, teaching ice hockey. He has a job. He's got money saved in the bank. He's the best son I could ever ask for in my life. We speak the same language. He's been to CoDA. He's worked the program. He's very committed to AA and his, step groups and such. And I really go back in my life, and yes, is there more healing for me? Of course. It's kind of a constant, never-ending peeling the layers back, because I'm finding myself when I get in a trigger, that's unhealed wounds of not being heard, or people making fun of me, or being just not able to push off the outside. I know when my heart is not open to receive what's shutting me down. I know now. I mean, we don't all have to agree on everything in life. We're never going to be like that. But we can agree to disagree and to love one another anyway. And today I have healthy boundaries. Are they perfect? No. It's still hard for me to confront, because I was raised in an environment where if I confronted my mom, it was not pretty. I can say no today and not feel guilty for like days. Oh my God, I can't believe I said no. I really do love myself today. I accept my flaws. I accept my gifts. I've been in CoDA, I got in, as I said, October 8th, 2010, to the Peel the Onion meeting at 8 a.m. in the morning. And within a few weeks, it took me a couple months to find a sponsor, but within 6 months, I started a meeting that's still going strong today. I started another meeting that's still going strong today. I've been in service, I think, this whole time, 14 years straight, as something. I'm the functions chair. We haven't done much since COVID, because I realized that I needed to put other things in my life first. And CoDA was a beautiful way to spend my time, but I had to balance better. And I learned how to balance better by saying no. And I really cherish and value any sacred space of myself and others. So when someone else says no to me, I don't take it personally. I realize she or he or they need time to process their own journey. That's not lacking respect. That's showing self-respect. And if I respect myself, I'm going to respect you even more. I think deep down, there's a lot of grieving that I've processed over the last 14 years. And it's not just what's happened in the last 14 years. It's my whole life. It's grieving childhood experiences. It's grieving family members. It's grieving, my dad passed away 4 years ago, someone I loved, and he was my person. I'm grieving the relationships of people that for some reason are no longer in my life. Did I feel abandoned? I did. However, sometimes, once again, God does for us what we cannot do for ourselves. And I know some of the people in my life that caused me some disconnect. Deep down, I was praying to God that that would become not so. And those people are no longer in my life for whatever reason. If it's temporary, I use that word a lot with my youngest daughter. Sweetheart, what you're going through right now is a temporary situation. This is not forever. I know it seems very overwhelming, but it's temporary. So I say things like that. So I remind myself that when my life gets a little beyond comfort level, this is temporary. I might be scared, or, the fear of rejection or of someone's reaction. It's just a reaction. It's just emotion. It's not someone sticking a knife in my stomach. You know what I mean? So I'm learning on a day-to-day basis that, my recovery is detaching with love from the past, but it's also healing through the past. It's not avoiding. It's not an avoidance anymore. I'm not in denial about certain shameful experiences I've encountered. If someone is judging me, that's on them, not on me. It's easier said sometimes than done. Um, it has been really difficult for me to release and shed this protective layer because I'm still fearful of who I can trust, because sometimes I don't trust myself. However, because I work on this program and on myself, and I tend to come from a way more optimistic viewpoint, I know now that this is a temporary kind of journey through the different hurdles, and that I can learn to forgive my mother. I found out 4 years ago, or 3.5, that I have a half sister I never knew about. And I thought, when this person reached out to me from Ancestry, that it was my father. I thought, well, my dad must have gotten someone pregnant. No, it was my mother. My mother somehow, and I don't know the whole story, she somehow got pregnant. I don't know how. And she had to go and she put the baby up for adoption with my grandparents, never told us, never shared this shameful thing in 1950, whatever. And the sister was supposed to be adopted by a family, and they pulled out because we're of Jewish religion. They were probably anti-Semitic. And the pediatrician at the hospital, even though it wasn't illegal, he ended up adopting my baby's half sister. And she had a really great life with this pediatrician lover father, who was he was a pediatrician to the celebrities like the Kennedy family and a lot of people in Palm Beach, Florida. And she had another sister who was adopted, and she had a brother who was part of their family. But anyway, why I'm saying all this about that chapter, I call them chapters, is that my half sister wanted to tell my mother, and my brothers and I were very protective because my mother had just lost her husband 6 months previous. They had been together for 60 plus years, and we didn't see the why. She knew her whole life she was adopted. We just found out about her. So I introduced my half sister to my first cousin, who's 10 years older than me, who was my person. I talked to her every day of my life. And when they got together, my cousin basically kind of took her side and thought I was being selfish and ridiculous. And now my cousin no longer speaks with me, who is like my sister. And my half sister no longer talks to me. So I went through a lot, losing my father, losing my first cousin, from this circumstance, finding out I had a half sister, getting to know her a little bit. Then she went off with the cousin. So I had to say a lot. I mean, it was hard, but I had to stand up for my own true values and myself. And do you learn this when you grow up? What do you do if you find out you have a half sibling? What do you do with all the shame that your mother threw into your life because of her circumstances, and in the 50s, not knowing how to talk about this? And to this day, I haven't told my mother. She's 91. She's totally cohesive and coherent. I don't know how or when or if I'm going to share this truth with her, because there's still part of me that's very scared of my mother and her response and her reaction. And I feel like one day, maybe it's going to come through God, what I'm supposed to do about that. I had a lot of anger about how she showed up in my life. And there was no communication for me at that level. I didn't feel communicative with someone who I felt a lot of anger and hurt. So I don't know. So grief, healing, letting go of the disappointments. You know what they say, disappointments are surrendering to a power greater than myself and trusting the process and knowing that God, God is right here with and for me and for all of us. So I think I'm going to kind of like wind my story up by saying I'm really grateful to be in Codependence Anonymous. I'm grateful to have a connection with Ken and Mary and to have done the steps numerous times. I'm very, very grateful to the promises because that's what these promises are what caused me to stay in this program, because it's scary looking at these patterns and characteristics and going, oh, geez, I'm scared of reading even more, because the longer I was in CoDA, the more I started seeing all these things surfacing within me. At first, I only saw maybe one in each category. I was like, well, maybe I'm that, denial. Thank goodness for denial. And then as it went on, sometimes even I'm on a meeting every Monday morning and I go, wow, I have a lot of these still. I mean, I'm not going to just turn them over every minute, but I look at these patterns and characteristics and say, wow, that is a lot of stuff. It's a lot of work to do. I'm very close with my children. I feel that that's my healing process for me, because I can't undo the lineage. Ken and Mary say it's like 7 generations that we get passed down our own experiences, our shame, our anger, whatever it is. What's hereditary? Our blood, yes, but also emotions. So when I had my children, was I perfect? Heck no. But guess what? I've had a lot of relationships that have taught me many, many lessons, some more painful, some joyful. And I have my son, I told you he'll be 33 years old. He lives here. He's beautiful. My middle daughter is 32. She lives successful, beautiful person. My 24-year-old, beautiful. She's got a lot of work. Codependence Anonymous is calling her name, but she's just now realizing that she has, what is it called in CoDA? The addiction to fear addiction. She uses the word fear and scared a lot in her communication with me. Mommy, I'm scared. Okay, what are you frightened of? So I can, almost do like a 12-step and turn it around and try to make a difference for her and guide her life and give her tools for her toolbox to help heal this thing we called those layers of the onion, and healing all that pain and that fear-based energy, that addiction to fear that we don't even see ourselves. So my outcome for all of us, me, my children, and everyone I know, love, and care about, is to overcome our childhood trauma, pain, whatever we went through, and really own our authentic self and come out of hiding and really open our hearts and share who we are, because life is short. Let's face it. We don't know how much time we have. I mean, I don't know. My mother will probably live till 100 and gosh knows. But we all are here and this is our life. And I don't want to wait. Why wait to feel great? Why wait to feel healed? What if I just say, I am a healing, powerful woman in recovery, instead of magnifying all the things I could pick on? I'm a procrastinator sometimes. Why are we so hard on ourselves? It is a we program. I let go of being hard on myself.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mary Beth, for that and your beautiful share. It is so wonderful to be on this journey with you and with everyone that's on today. It is truly a family. And thank goodness we get to do this together, right? I get chills because I'm so grateful to CoDA to have when we say, you know, ideals for living, it's like so grateful to like understand myself today. Like, I think when we're in the pain that we are in as children and in this journey and how we get here, it's like this torture. We view this in, or like, when is this pain going to go away? And it's amazing when we find recovery and walking through it. It's like, oh my gosh, I just like that feeling. I could breathe. I could understand what was going on with me and how I must have felt as that child, and what was, these patterns within me and how I operated in life. And I was just so grateful to have that. I'll share the experience of how I just how the light bulb moment I shared, because I got to the rooms at CoDA through addiction. Um, I am 1 week into treatment in April of 2005 for alcoholism, and I know I have the disease of alcoholism, and was very clear on that. But I'm 1 week into it, and I'm sitting in a workshop, and they say the word codependency and start describing it. And just like that fan and that light bulb behind me, it was like, oh my God, that is me. Oh my God. Oh my God. I just wanted to like stand up and go, oh my God, you finally, I understand what's going on with me. I mean, it was that powerful. Like, I was like, oh my God, it was just like wanted to just jump up and down, feeling like, oh my God, I never had heard that explained, understood. It was like I was always confused and never could kind of figure out what was going on with me. And when they spoke those words and explained it, it was like I knew. I'm like, I was like, I'm in the right place, and they're talking about me. And so that's when that journey started. And I'm forever grateful for that, because it is everything that Ken and Mary, their journey started through addiction, like meaning it's like we all medicate, but that meat and potatoes is that codependency. Those are our causes and conditions of why we medicate. And I am very grateful to alcohol. I know this is not out, but I'm very grateful for that medicator, because I understood now that that saved me for many years. I understand now the things that we have to walk through until we're ready to get to those feelings. Because I always understood, we think at that time the feelings are going to kill us. Drugs and alcohol will kill us, but the feelings actually won't kill us. But we're so afraid. And that's what, to me, when we were talking about fear addiction, we are so afraid to feel that pain. We'll go to any lengths not to feel it. And I've done that even in recovery. I've shopped, I've, used exercise, I've ate, I've done lots of different things, but just not to feel. We're just really afraid to feel. And I think the gift of being in this program, of just finally understanding these patterns and characteristics, have made it to where I'm like, okay, there's a feeling attached. I can separate the facts and the feelings, and I can start looking at things a little bit more right sized, because um, the level of uncomfortable and denial that I grew up with, that I'll kind of go start with that. I have parents that got married at a young age, at 18, had my sister at 19 and me at 24. Very fun people, very dynamic people, had lots of friends around. It was very fun growing up. We were the fun people. We had a very entertaining home. It was red, black, and white, very dynamic. They were the cool people. They were cool, and it was fun. But there was always it was a party. There was usually, alcohol and everything around. But it was like, you know, it, worked, and they were good people, and they taught me a lot of great things. but, had their issues that seemed to be a lot enmeshed with too much drinking or what was going to be going on that day and what was going on. So, as a young girl, I know that started off, I relate to that girl very young that had the radar going on all the time. Like, I could read the room, everything, what's going on. And I find it very interesting. My name is Joy. I feel like I was the glue of the family and the joy of the family, that I was given that responsibility to be the happy, joyful Joy. And I love my name, love everything about Joy, but I realized that was the responsibility of the perfect little thing of, like, I'll just do that one feeling, and then those six other ones, angry, lonely, shame, guilt, I'm going to just stuff all those feelings down because I'm not allowed to do any of those. I'm just going to be the happy girl and just go along with everything's perfect and okay. Because when I said the cool family and everything looked good, we looked good, everything too, the nice looking parents. We were all beautifully dressed. The house was perfect looking. We had two nice cars. We had the beautiful standard poodle. I mean, it all looked good. And a lot of it was, but it's this, with codependency, it's this flooding enmeshment and this perfectionism and all these different feelings that thread through all this growing up, that, I must have been really uncomfortable because at 8 years old, I my first drug of choice was food, and I was really um, medicating with food at a very young age, that I look back going, God, that little girl must have been really uncomfortable. And I went through a path of, becoming I wasn't overweight as a young child, but then from like 8 on became overweight. So I dealt with a lot of teasing, a lot of that uncomfortable, but always, even being teased, a smile on my face, like it wasn't really hurting me and I'm not going to be sad. Because on the flip side, I was actually really liked in school. I got I was an outgoing person. I had friends. But I always, dealt with weight most of my life, that my mother also did too, knowing later that she was like put on diet pills at 13. So that was something that for her, and then her father had a weight issue. So I kind of see that like, that. And then when I was young, my mom looked perfect. My mom had this rockin' figure. She was like this amazing looking, worked out every day. She was a huge part. And she did all the right things, ate great, did everything. And I I look back on that and seeing that, where my mom would be waiting for my dad to come home, and it was kind of like, what's dad doing? My dad is a workaholic, worked all of the time, and so would come home, past 7 or so, and only was home on Sundays. But knowing now, I think dad was out doing some things that he shouldn't have been doing with other women and doing things. And I had a message that my mom, looking perfect, doing everything right, the household looked perfect. Obviously, whatever in life, like that's not enough. Like whether, and whatever that, but she was gonna stay no matter what. So their relationship, I know from early on that I think my mom was so resentful at what my dad was doing. And then I think resentful that um I know now that she was pregnant before they got married, that her life didn't go the way she had planned. She was going to be an entrepreneur, do all these things, her big ideas. And then my dad, you know, uh, chased her, and all the things that started off at that younger age of building those resentments. And then of course that they had all these fun friends and drinking, and just how that all kind of started. It's like then as everything progressives, their lives where my mom became that entrepreneur, my dad still worked all the time, but how alcoholism progressed in their life. Like soon, everything was through that lens. I always kind of describe it as that, whether good, bad, indifferent, when everything's a little bit always from an altered mind most of the time. If you're drinking every day when you come home at night, everything's from that lens. So I got very used to seeing life through that lens while everything from the outside still looked perfect. Again, we had lots of friends, I had friends, but always, just holding a lot in. And at a young age, really being like a little parent to them, like kind of being a maybe sort of a surrogate wife to my dad, listening to him, listening to my mom, waiting for my dad to come home. So I just really saw those resentments over life that my dad probably never felt like he was good enough, like he could never please her. She was in resentment of him. But I knew that they loved each other. That was always for sure. I knew my parents loved each other. And so I share all that because you get all these messages like they're these, and in fact, I know how much they loved me. They told me every day how beautiful I was and how loved I was. So I got messages of like I was loved, I could accomplish a lot, but then it was like my mom, a woman staying in something that, if she's miserable, and then if my dad's doing other things, but then they love each other. So it's all these mixed messages of what is. So I always later realized it was like this fantasy life. And so when I later learned that word fantasy, I was like, oh my God, my whole life was like a fantasy. Like everything looked perfect and everything was wonderful, but it was like this underlining emotional stuff always going on and not really understanding. Um, and I just wanted everyone to be happy. So I was just going to go to great lengths to caretake and be the glue and make sure everyone was okay. And so as things progressed, I know in my life that later, about 19, and I had started to have my first drink at 18, like a kid in high school. But then at 19, I remember getting really involved in this diet. And I just like got so immersed in this diet and like so perfect. And like had lost weight perfectly, did everything perfect, like not, just that seeing back then that high level of perfectionism that I could really control everything. I just controlled how much I worked out, how much I ate, how much I did this, and it was the first time I became so thin and looked perfect, and the accolades from that. And it's like I could just remember that feeling. I was so high on life, like of looking perfect, and I'd worked so hard and all this stuff. And I just like and then soon it's like not enough. Soon now I'm almost anorexic, and then I can't maintain that because that's so hard. Now I flip to the other side again of like secretly eating and trying to control. It was always this trying to control what was going on within me. I was always, um I think, early on, either trying to fix others or fix what was going on with me, but I never really knew because everything looked so perfect. Was there really a problem? And mom and dad really love each other, but they don't really have a problem. Did dad, maybe was he cheating on mom? But I don't really know because we don't talk about it. But boy, mom seems resentful to dad. And did that happen? And should they have separated? And I remember my sister and I telling mom that she could leave dad if she wanted to, but no, she wanted to stay no matter what. So she, made that decision to stay, but then she's going to be mad at him forever and drink at him. And then now he's drinking at her. So as these things are progressing on, and then soon when I started doing more secretive behavior, is really when I found alcohol just to quiet my mind. And I just share that all with you because that was my journey of just wanting my mind to, I just don't want it. I can't handle all this anymore. And I'm just going to anesthetize myself because it's all too much. So as that, my journey went on with that, um, until I, in 2005, um, was ready. God, I had a spiritual awakening, just like Mary Beth on a, it was 10 o'clock on a Tuesday for me. And I could tell you that exact moment, 10 o'clock in the Tuesday, I saw myself in the mirror and I put my hand in God's hand and I've never let go. And I share that because that was how it happened. And then when I got to where I needed to go to have people put their arms around me and help me start my journey in recovery, like I said, a week into it, hearing about codependency. And that other profound thing that happened in that week is I'm walking down the hall, I realized that that was the first time I put myself first in my life. The first time I put myself first, and I was 35 years old. And I knew I was in the right place. And my gut, it was the first time my gut told me I was in the right place. And I was so grateful. So if you feel that gut, no matter what, it's like our gut knows. And we avoid that for so long that it's so profound when it's just there. And I just knew my journey had started. And it was just then that I go, you know what? I'm just going to stay on this path. And I'm just have never gotten off that path because these 19 years of progressing of in codependency is really been so profound, that so grateful to know that that was the real meat and potatoes, that I, if I could really start looking at these patterns of where I grew up and these patterns of my environment and what were so ingrained. I mean knowing now, even what some things have happened for me in the last couple of years, these ingrained behaviors that, I mean, since we were so young, I mean, it's just profound how deep they are within us and how much it is generational and how profound that it sometimes is. We can intellectually know it, we can know that that is there, but sometimes until we can just get to that depths of our soul of really seeing that inner child and what that child was going through. um I hope I'm not jumping around. I had a moment, we were talking about COVID, that I tend to take on that trait from my dad of being a workaholic. And I know that that is a part of me that I can kind of do, um, immerse myself so much so I don't have to really think about a lot of things going on with me. I can focus on others. I can, you know, that when during COVID, I was able to slow down enough. That was the first time I saw myself profoundly, like I was getting out of the shower, that it was like all of a sudden I had this thought of me as this little girl, that I wasn't responsible for my parents. And that's how profound it was. It was like all of a sudden, like, why am I killing myself that I was this little girl? This was their relationship, not me. And it was the first time that I slowed down enough that all of a sudden I was able to detach from that and realize that my little girl was not responsible for them. And I'd been working in CoDA for years, but I slowed down enough to have that moment like that. So just I encourage you to trust the process, because you never know when you're going to have these profound moments that get you to a deeper level. Just stay in it. Just stay immersed in this journey, and it's just going to be this ongoing, and you'll have moments where you feel like you're just moving along, and then you'll have these big huge leaps that get you into a new level of the onion. So it's like that outer layer when we start with just cracking the denial of thinking that I haven't grown up in this perfect life and everything's perfect, because I don't want to hurt anyone in that family of origin of saying they're bad people. It was all of a sudden I could factually look at, I grew up in a codependent alcoholic family, plain and simple. That's what happened, and how that progressed in my life, my parents' life, how it just progressed. It might have started off fun, but at the very end there at 35, I was medicating myself, my mother was medicating herself, and my father, and we were all in separate rooms doing that. And that's what's profound is you end up at the end there in your own, all three in our own journey of what we individually needed to heal. So I think once I started, I could not so much have to pull their covers. I had to realize what was going on with me and then just start understanding where I came from. Because that protective little girl was like, oh no, I don't want to say anything bad about them, or I don't want to look at them like they did. No, I had to, and with acknowledging what my journey was, the more I started to heal, I was healing my relationship with them. That I could look at them. I don't live in that little girl emotional state anymore. I'm now integrating into this more woman standing in self and recovery that I can show up differently in our relationship. So it was amazing how the more I started healing, I could understand where they came from a lot better. And so when starting my journey 19 years ago, I was very grateful to meet Ken and Mary, the founders of Codependence Anonymous, and that um, I shared that because some of these workshops and things that even Mary Beth and I have done together truly I encourage because these immersed situations, like if you're in a weekend workshop, it equates to like 6 months of therapy when you're really immersed in something. Meetings are ideal to be going to every week, but these moments of being immersed in these workshops are profound. They get you into this immerse that you're really able to spend time really working through patterns and seeing yourself. And that's really where it started with me. I was able to um, say yes to going to these things. It's like saying, yes, I'm going to go to these workshops, saying, yes, I'm going to get involved in these groups. And the more that I did, the true, magic started to happen. So I really encourage some of this deep, deep work because you will feel better and you'll start being able to see yourself in that. And these workshops, one of the thing I wanted to maybe take a moment that I could not believe how much this changed my life of Ken and Mary showing me. I can even put it later. It's been a profound experience for me to um, be able to see myself. This is a head shape right here in 4 quadrants. Right up here is higher self. Next to it is adult self, which is ego, laptop, computer. Underneath this is loving parent. And over on the side is teenager and inner child. And when they explained to me, they were like, the inner child holds all the feelings and will always be the one to hold all the feelings. The teenager is our acting out, whether it's our addiction part, our FUs, you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm not going to, listen to you, all that acting out. Higher self, I hope all of us have been there before. I think we all wish we could live there all the time. It's when we're just at peace, at one. I choose to call God, whatever higher, um, higher power you want to believe. But the whole point is that just being at peace, and we all wish we could live here all the time because it's just we just can breathe and everything just fills in its place. But the adult self is really the laptop computer of how we present ourselves every day, the car we drive, the clothes we put on, the job we have, how we walk into a room, what, that ego state. And the loving parent, this is what we were missing, when we were young, however our journey came, we just did not, a lot of us didn't learn, or we didn't have that loving parent, or we didn't have, the nurturing, or we were told we weren't good, just whatever, how we did, but the loving parent. So me in recovery, me being responsible to be on this journey to learn about my inner child, why my teenager acts out, why my ego likes to look good, why I need my higher self to recover. But I need to be the loving parent to that inner child. In one of those workshops, with me being one of my highest, probably the biggest thing I would do is the caretaking. I'll kind of get over to that, but the caretaking, I would abandon myself all the time to take care of everyone else. And so when the analogy of me standing on a street corner with my little girl holding her hand, Ken asked me, would you leave that little girl on that street corner? And right away I'd go, no, of course I wouldn't do that. Well, you do that every single time because you leave that little girl to go save everybody else. And in that workshop, one of the profound moments that I walked away from that, I said, I will never, ever leave you again. That loving parent told her, I will never leave you again. And I started trusting myself because I started trusting myself, saying, I'm not going to leave you to go save everyone else. You are a worthy, lovable child living inside this grown up, loving woman's body, that you are worth being here, you're worth loving, and you're worth being first. And you're worth being first with you, God. I call it the trifecta. And then after that, once I put myself first, I can help others. I can take care of people in a loving way, but I don't put myself at the bottom anymore. So, with the profession that I chose, I am a hairdresser of 32 years, which I love and adore. But I could live in that world of caretaking others, making sure they were okay. If they felt beautiful, I could, immerse myself in that because I loved it and I loved everything about it. But that caretaking side, that I stood in front of that mirror for 15 years and didn't see me, that I could just focus on others. And I know I probably stayed in my disease much longer because I was immersed in that. It was the only thing that made me happy. So when I start my recovery journey, I'm like, gosh, I love my life. I love what I do, but what's wrong here? Well, what was wrong was I was at the bottom and I could take care of 12 people all day. And I was so depleted that there was nothing left for me. So once I put myself up at the top with God and that little girl taking care of me, I love what I do more than anything today. I'm still that woman that does hair, but I put myself first. Then I'm able to, you know, enjoy what I do without giving my soul away. Because I call it giving your soul away. When you're leaving you all the time, I'm leaving my soul there. And so the gift of just those little things, like I said, from the workshop that were so profound, I can, because what's interesting, you're either in one of these, like now I can go, I very much recognize when I'm in my teenager and I'm like, oh boy, I need to go have a meeting with myself because I'm not behaving very well. Or when I'm in my little girl and I'm so affected by what someone said to me, if it's past a 3 or a 4, that I'm devastated on the ground going, oh my God, I can't believe this is, I'm just so, and that's what would happen to me a lot in my intimate relationships. I'd be picking people that I'd be so devastated by what they were saying to me that it was just, my little girl was being hurt constantly. And so it's so interesting today that, as I've worked on all this and integrated more, and it's integrated that inner child into that teenager, into that loving parent, and into my adult self, I can recognize so much more of what is going on with me, and that's what's been the amazing gift. Do I still look at my character of, I'm operating from, I am, to me, very, very open about recovery. Being a hairdresser, I talk about recovery all day long because I view it as that's the only way I'm going to stay, is that I'm very open because I was from that secretive family that everything looked perfect. So today I'm just I look at going, God just told me you need to flip yourself inside out and just be authentic, because I found that people maybe didn't drink the way I did, but they feel the way I feel. And I view that everyone on this planet is codependent because we're human beings with feelings. So I think it looked like this thing, like when people are like, I'm not codependent. I'm not that. I don't let, I'm not, it's like, it looked like this weak minded, and I'm like, oh boy, codependents are not weak-minded people. Very type A, very controlling. We're going to control everything in our lives to be okay. We're going to either look perfect, control the situation to be okay, um, give our advice. We are going to do every pattern to not be in that fear, or every pattern to make us feel okay, because that's really where we're operating from. If we can control everything and either deny it's going on, avoid it's going on, our low self-esteem of like, this isn't really happening to me, any pattern that we're going to do to make us feel okay, that's how we operate every single day, whether it's with our parent, our child, our coworker, the person at the grocery store. We're going to make sure we're okay no matter what. And we'll go to great lengths to be safe, because that fear is really scary. And so I am so grateful today that I can breathe into me, and I can live in that faith more with my higher power, and just be okay with doing the best to my ability every day, because that's the best I can do. Living in that high level of perfectionism, I can't live like that. That girl that was trying to control everything she was doing throughout her life to make herself feel okay. I was so exhausted by 35. I was like, I just can't. I didn't have anything left in me to, and I look at that today, going, I know that the part in the book, like, God gives us these characteristics as a child to cope and be safe, be able to deal with our surroundings. And once we grow up, they stop working for us. And I think that the gift of us being in this room is those patterns, and our lives, everything going on in our relationships, it stops working, the chaos and all the feelings and everything, and it's like we start going, this isn't working anymore. And then when you get to CoDA and you hear going, God, the mission statement is to have healthy relationships. You're like, you're kind of start laughing, going, well, who wouldn't want healthy relationships? I mean, it seems a little like, wow. And so it was really, though, about me having a healthy relationship with myself, my higher power, then in turn I have healthy relationship with others. It really started with that low self-esteem healing, that I was responsible for, being able to say, I am a child worthy of recovery. I'm someone worthy of a life. I'm worthy of being comfortable in my own skin. I'm worthy of loving myself, but I just know that going through all these steps of showing up in all these areas, I was responsible. I had to, start going to meetings. I had to start working with others. These workshops have been profound for me. I mean, profound. I heard it today on, people talking about the things that we've met other people in and how we've grown. I just truly believe this program has saved my life. Um, I wanted to comment. I think that there's so much amazing with 12 step that I spent a lot of time even in Al-Anon. That Al-Anon was such a beautiful um, experience for 5 years, immersing in that, of just knowing I was powerless over everything. I think all these programs really truly show you such different aspects of powerlessness, of whether it's addiction, feelings, family of origin, really knowing that I was powerless, and that in all these aspects, my life and my feelings were unmanageable. And so I truly, with that moment that day of having that spiritual awakening with God, I just know that I woke up going, oh my gosh, like almost like feeling like codependency was almost like a gift to understand that, like that day when it was like someone telling me who I was. I remember almost like just feeling giddy of happiness. That's why I share it like that, because I could never figure myself out. I could never figure out what was going on with me,
Yeah.
why I was so confused all the time with my feelings, and I would just go along with everyone else and just don't make waves, and don't I mean, just all that ickiness that's kind of hard to understand because it feels like cobwebs of feelings. So I feel like over the years, like I've been undoing the cobwebs and things are getting much more clear, and I'm getting much more standing in self, and I don't feel like I can stand within myself and understand factually going, well, it's pretty much all textbook what happened to me. I mean, it really is. Everything in all these books describe, well, of course that happened because that's what happened. And of course, and once I got understanding like these were my feelings that were attached to what happened, I could start going, okay, this fantasy reality I created my whole life, I could start putting a picture to it of going what was going on, and focus on me and start focusing on healing me. That um even in recovery, I didn't never want to see myself as a victim because I thought now I'm this powerful woman. It's like, wow, that was another one of those huge moments that just the simplicity of I have a choice in everything I do. Because with my codependency, I'm a part in the book that I'll stay in the trenches forever. I will persevere. I am a really hard worker. I will protect my parents' disease. I'll protect my disease. I will protect someone else's disease. So the people I chose in my life were people that, I've had to learn some real big lessons. But the lessons,
Yeah.
well, I just, the lesson is thank goodness for every teacher that has been placed in my life, because it showed me what I needed to learn about me. And sometimes we need really big teachers because sometimes we won't see it until we see it. So I'm just going to stay on this path and be with you guys. And thank you so much for letting me share. And thank you to CoDA. Thank you.